Thank you so much, sir. Namaste and good evening to everybody present. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me such a wonderful platform to put my words forward. And today, the topic that I have chosen for discussion is menopause. Um, it is very, very important because menopause is not a disease. It is basically a natural event, a condition that occurs in every woman's life. So we all need to look at it in a very different way. So today I'll talk about what is menopause and how homeopathically we can help women before, during, and after menopause. So, starting with what is menopause? So, menopause is basically a normal and natural event that occurs in every woman's life as she reaches her late 40s and early 50s. So, it marks the end of the reproductive cycle, the reproductive stage of her life, where the reproductive hormones start to decrease and they decrease so much so that our menstrual cycles stop. We can confirm menopause once the woman has not had periods for 12 consecutive months, that is almost a year. And that period is also included in the perimenopausal phase. So now talking about perimenopausal phase. Perimenopausal phase is basically the transitional time, which may start as early as 8 to 10 years before the actual menopause happens. And there, here we have to include those 12 months for which the lady is not having her periods. So, perimenopausal phase, the symptoms start to appear of the decreasing reproductive hormones, particularly the estrogen. And this perimenopausal phase of 8 to 10 years is a long time. And then the menopause comes, and all the changes that are occurring in the body lead to a lot of I would say a turmoil in a woman's body, and hence so many symptoms and so many signs a woman comes across which she might not even know that they are natural, that we have to educate the women about them, that this is okay, this is, you're just having a another phase of your life. And talking about the age, the most common age of menopause is 48. I would say the mean age rather is 48 to 52 years. But these days, since last almost 10 years now, early menopause is very, very common. In India, the evidence of early menopause is somewhere around 8 to 10%, which makes it every one woman in 100 is having early menopause. And early menopause can occur anywhere from 35 to 40 years, which is quite early. So now I would like to share a few slides. This is a diagrammatic representation of what changes start to happen in our body when a woman is reaching, when a woman is approaching her menopause. Now, all these changes we can attribute to the decrease in levels of our reproductive hormones and particularly estrogen. Now, what is estrogen doing? What has it been doing since all these reproductive years of our system? Firstly, it is giving, of course, it is the first and the foremost is it is producing eggs. It is basically causing ovaries to release eggs, which is now not happening anymore. Or it starts to decrease in the perimenopausal phase. And as soon as the woman attains the menopause, the eggs stop to form. And hence, no periods, or in the perimenopausal phase, very, very altered menstrual cycles. A woman may bleed less or a woman may bleed more, which we'll discuss later. And because the estrogen is less and estrogen is responsible for the secretions in the vagina, so the vaginal secretions go on decreasing and ultimately leads to a lot of dryness in the vaginal area. Then, if we talk about the other, like in the breast, the glandular tissue starts to decrease again because of low estrogen levels, and the fat starts to increase. Also, what is happening here is the skin is also losing its elasticity, which was again given by the estrogen, which is beauty hormone also. So what is happening is the breast also starts to sag. It loses its firmness. Then we come to the urinary system. What happens is, because of again the laxity of muscles, the loss of elasticity in various parts of the body, the bladder, the urethra, the system becomes weak, and women may experience incontinence. Whereas incontinence in terms of mild leakage to proper involuntary urination. The skin also becomes very dry. The elasticity of the skin starts to go very, very down, and the skin loses its sheen, its shine. It starts wrinkling. The hair starts to become thin, all because we are losing estrogen. Of course, how can bones be spared? Because estrogen helps in deposition of calcium from the bloodstream onto the bones. So as we start to lose the estrogen, not lose exactly, but as the estrogen levels go on decreasing, our bones become more fragile. They become more prone to accidents. Women tend to get very, very frequent fractures, early fractures, easy fractures. They complain, they start having bone pains, joint pains, because their bones become weak because of losing calcium. Estrogen is also responsible for a lot of metabolic activity in the body. It helps in the digestion and metabolism of fat. So when estrogen is, when in the lack of estrogen in the body, obviously causes increased deposition of cholesterol, which in turn is basically putting forward a high risk of cardiac ailments in women. So these are all the changes that are happening inside a body when a woman is approaching her menopause or is in the perimenopausal phase or at the time of menopause. So of course, with so many changes going on, the woman will experience a lot of symptoms, a lot of signs. So now we'll discuss what those signs and symptoms are. I'm sorry for the small slide. So the first and most important is cause irregular menstruation. Now, irregular menstruation, by saying this, I mean, it can be, the woman may come and say that I have very, very scanty menses, which is okay because it is not bothering her. It is not causing any trouble to her. She may menstruate like at not very regularly, and the gap between her two cycles go up to 1 or 2 months, 2 to 3 months also. Vice versa, the condition can be that the woman is menstruating profusely. Copious bleeding is happening, menorrhagia. She's bleeding in between the periods. She's having spotting, and she's having protracted periods. Every 20, 25 days, she's bleeding. And this makes the life of a woman very, 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 I would say, disturbed. Because obviously, every 15 days or 20 days, you're bleeding, and that too copiously. It causes a lot of weakness, it causes anemia. So anemia is not a direct symptom of menopause. It is caused because of increased menstrual cycle. Then the very, very important symptom and very, very common symptom that a woman experiences is hot flushes or night sweats. Usually, again, it is a repercussion of decreased estrogen and vasomotor dysfunction during menopause. So by hot flushes, we mean there's a sudden feeling of heat in maybe one part of the body or in the entire body. And usually it is on the upper head, neck, and chest area. There is sudden feeling of heat with a lot of sweating, and this may last from somewhere around 30 seconds to 10 minutes. And if severe, it definitely causes a lot of weakness, because if the frequency of these sweats are too much, of course, the woman starts to feel weak. The next is vaginal dryness. That, as I talked earlier, the lack of estrogen is causing decreased vaginal secretions, and hence the vagina becomes very, very dry. An excessively dry vagina, again, it causes a lot of symptoms. It causes excessive itching. It may cause recurrent vaginitis. It may even cause recurrent UTIs because you're itching continuously. And this may even lead to our next symptom, which is decreased libido. That is, the sexual desire decreases a lot. Now, this is also again because the hormone estrogen is not there anymore. So, but sexual desire decreases. When a patient comes to, when a woman comes, I would not call her a patient. When a woman comes to us, we really have to find out that is it actually her libido which has gone down, the sexual desire which has decreased, or is it because of the excessive dryness or excessive discomfort that she has started to feel during the act is refraining her to go in for any kind of sexual activity. So this also actually pulls her away from any kind of sexual things. Then loss of bladder control or incontinence of urine, as we discussed earlier. Whenever she laughs, on laughing, on coughing, on sneezing, or any kind of activity that increases our lower abdominal pressure, will cause a leak of 1 or 2 drops or maybe more, and which is again very, very disturbing. Then we have sleep irregularities like insomnia, particularly insomnia. And this is caused by, it can be because of the night sweats. It can be because of the weakness that she's feeling. It can be because of the incontinence that she's experiencing, or it can be just because of menopause only. Then mood swings, which is of utmost importance, I feel, because at this time, because of, again, now estrogen is responsible for one more thing, that is releasing, it aids in the release of happy hormones, that is serotonin and others. So now when the estrogen is not there, obviously the happy hormones are not being secreted, which leads to a lot of mood swings. The woman becomes sad, gloomy, the anger increases, the tolerance decreases. So there's so many things that change in the mental setup also, which need to be considered when a woman enters our clinic for this particular reason. Then weight gain. Again, as I said earlier, estrogen is responsible for metabolism, for fat digestion. It aids in fat digestion basically. So a woman tends to gain weight. Thinning of hair, dryness of skin, I've already discussed. And then, of course, because of osteoporosis, because of losing calcium, she will start complaining of pain in the legs, back, easy spraining, easy fractures. And I would say that out of all the symptoms that I've discussed, almost 70 to 75% of women experience some or the other symptom in less or more severe form. Now, how can we help a woman who is who is in her menopausal, perimenopausal phase or in her menopausal phase? I feel out of these, most of the symptoms can be actually dealt with some changes in the lifestyle, suggesting the patient, counseling the patient for a healthy lifestyle, a healthy, balanced diet, regular exercise, because this will definitely help them lose weight and everything, and it will keep their mind fresh. Then it is very, very important to counsel the patient correctly, to tell her that it is fine to have these symptoms, because not every symptom or every sign will require medicine. So this is also, as a doctor, it is our responsibility to educate the women that fine, this is okay, this is not a disease, it is fine if you're having this symptom, and it will go on its own. And of course, homeopathy cannot be, this is, I think that is the best answer, because in allopathic system of medicine, they give you they will give a menopausal woman HRT, that is hormonal replacement therapy, which is no answer. Because, and what is hormonal replacement therapy is just a small touch. They will give synthetic estrogen or a combination pill of estrogen progesterone for a certain amount of time, then they'll give a gap, then again. But this will only help till the time the patient is consuming these pills. And ultimately, she will fall into the same trap. So this is the answer. And homeopathy has a permanent solution. So it can definitely help them. Now, regarding the health tips that I was talking about, or the counseling that I was saying that we must deliver to the patient and tell her along with our treatment, are that she must manage her weight. She must do regular exercises, because again, weight management is important. Why? Because increased weight will further break her bones or cause frequent fractures. Increased weight will cause her mood to go, I mean, it will even make her more depressed. Then again, increased weight will lead to other lifestyle disorders, maybe even diabetes. Increased weight can pose so many problems. So it is very, very important to ask her to manage her weight by exercise, by a healthy diet. Then we should ask the woman to reduce or completely chuck out alcohol from her daily routine, from her life. Cigarette smoking should be completely prohibited. Tobacco is a complete no-no, because at this time the body is undergoing so much of turmoil. You don't want to trouble the body anymore. So why these things? These are basically suppressants. These are depressants, I would say, not even suppressants. They'll just give you a momentary high. So these should be completely omitted from the system. Then we should ask the patient to limit the food which have got high sugar content. And instead, we should ask them to go for a balanced diet with adequate amount of roughage, fiber, adequate amount of lean proteins, because these, and good amounts of minerals and vitamins which can help them, which can help the skin to, remain better and to look good even after estrogen is not there. Lastly, I would say, not lastly, but yes, of course, after alcohol, I would say that no stimulants, no coffee, least caffeine, and all these things, because again, these are stimulants. They just give you a momentary high and reduce stress. Do not overthink. Do not fall in the trap of depression of menopause. It is okay to have. It is a normal phenomena. We all will go through this. Now, why I have included this particular slide about sleep, because it is very, very important to have a good night's sleep, to work out regularly, to check your weight, to have a good stomach or to have a good digestion, to have normal diet. You need to sleep uh, properly. And for that, I think for everyone, for that matter, we all need to have a good sleep, a sound sleep. For that, we all need to put the technology away from us, from the bedside, from the other. Before we go off to sleep, I would say 1 to 1.5 hours. Say bye bye to your phones, laptops, TVs. Get yourself off the screen. Find a dark corner. Switch off the lights. Just pacify your souls. Tell it is night time. It is the time to sleep. This is how the biological clock also is. Then, of course, when you'll sleep, you'll exercise. And when you'll it's a vicious circle. When you'll exercise, you'll automatically sleep better. And of course, again, you'll sleep, you'll have a better diet. When you'll have a better diet, you'll sleep better. So it is very, very important to improve and to work on your sleep. So these were a few slides which I wanted to share before I go on to the homeopathic management of menopause. Why I discussed all these in details, although it is nothing if I talk about details, because it is such a vast topic. There's so many things to be discussed. But yes, I would really say that please, as a doctor, it is our duty to educate the women, not just medicate them. Now talking about homeopathy, we have a lot of medicines. I feel our Materia Medica is filled with the wonderful medicines with which we can help women before menopause, during the perimenopausal phase, after, and during and after menopause also. To name a few, Lachesis, Pulsatilla, Natrimur, Ignitia, Sepia, all polycrest remedies. And if we are talking about women, how can we forget Pulsatilla, Ignitia, Sepia, Calcarea, Platina, sulfur is a very good remedy. Kali Kav is very good. So now I will just discuss a few remedies which I find are very frequently used, and then we can then I would discuss the medicines which we can use for particular symptoms. Not going into very, very details of them. So if I talk about Lachesis, now of course, as we all know that Lachesis is a snake remedy, and this patient has already had this woman will have circulatory issues, will come with varicose veins, will come with a lot of night sweats. Maybe the presenting complaint will be night sweats. This woman will not tolerate anything around her, no tight clothing, nothing around her waist. She would always want loose clothing, and night sweats will make it even worse. The hot flashes will make it even worse. So she would like that I want to wear something very, very loose during night and even during day. If she's working, she would say, I would stop wearing my coats and blazers. I want to wear something very, very loose and go to my work. The menses here become scanty, and they may become scanty at a very early age. That means her perimenopausal phase may start very, very early. And all her complaints, though, will get relieved once the flow starts. This is very, very peculiar of Lachesis. So night sweats and her flow is very, very prominent in Lachesis for a menopausal woman. Then Graphites. Graphites is also a very important medicine for menopause. I use it very frequently because Graphites has got few things which are very similar to menopause. First is obesity. Second is sickly pale skin, because the skin is losing. You are losing the shine, and you're losing so that dryness, that shriveled skin of Graphites you will find in menopausal women. Not everyone. You. Then Graphites woman, of course, is obese, and she'll have a lot of tenderness around her uterine region. The very peculiar symptom which I have observed in few patients, that which is bookish, but still I've observed it, and that is why I'm mentioning it, that she would say that at the time when my date used to come, supposingly she's in the perimenopausal phase and she's going through that amenorrhea, the absent menses phase, where she's not had menses since last 3 or 4 months, she would come and say that I've not had menses, but still, on my due date, I would have some kind of vaginal discharge. not amounting to leukorrhea, but some kind of vaginal discharge, which will bother me for 2-3 days, but then it is all over. There is no bleeding. So this is a very, very good sign of Griffiths. And since it is since there is a lot of dryness, Griffiths cover beautifully the vaginal dryness and loss of sexual desire. And Griffiths has loss of sexual desire because of both reasons, because of the vaginal dryness as well as the loss of libido. The next medicine, which I find very, very useful and I use frequently, is Natrimure. Now, Natrimure, again, because it has a skin of a menopausal, like 50, 40, 45-ish, 50-ish women, and the skin is again losing its sheen. But here, the skin is pale, skin is oily. But at the same very time, the person will have, they will come and say that during the dry periods, like the weather right now in India, in the northern region of India, dry winds are blowing, so they'll have that dryness, and otherwise it will be very, very oily. And this, they would be very sad. They would come and tell you that they've never been like this. You know, they used to be loners, they used to be reserved, but now they're becoming sad. They're becoming sad on trifles. Little things are bothering them, and they're easily excitable. Their anger has increased, and they will have hysterical bouts. Their husband might come and say that she's having hysterical bouts. She's never behaved in such a way. Otherwise, she would have been quiet, but now she has suddenly become, loud, and she would even speak out her mind at times. And of course, the very, very prominent symptom of Natrimure continues even during menopause is that consolation will aggravate all her complaints. She needs to be left alone, even when she's angry, when she's sad, whatever is the issue. Then comes Ignitia. Ignitia's hysteriousness never changes. It will also be there in menopause also. And but why I use Ignitia? Of course, if my patient has a constitution of Ignitia, I would definitely go for it. But if I have to give something symptomatically, and if I'm not getting the constitution, I give Ignitia for sleep loss. Because for insomnia, where the patient comes to you and says that I've started getting weird dreams, varied kind of dreams, and they're horrifying, and just not, happening. Sorry. So they're getting weird dreams. These dreams are bothering them. They will wake up from sleep. So in these cases, when we give Ignitia, they sleep better. So they're basically afraid of going to the bed. And of course, the changeable symptoms, the changeable moods, the changeable thirst always persist in Ignitia. I'm touching basically the main symptoms on which we can classify various remedies that we have. Then we come to Calcarea cough. Calcarea cough's 3 Fs just cannot be ignored: fat, fair, flabby. But it is definitely not mandatory for the patient to be fair, for the patient to be very, very fat or chubby to be a Calcarea cough. But yes, these 3 things definitely can be observed very prominently, and you can have an option in your mind that yes, but we can't straight away confirm our medicine, of course, but still. And this woman, the Calcarea cough menopause woman will definitely have pains all over. She will have that lack of calcium feeling. She would tell you that I'm losing calcium. She would tell you that my bones are paining, my hands are paining. I can't get up from the bed. I feel weak. It's pain all over. She would come with overgrowths during menopause. Overgrowths can be seen in other medicines also, but Calcarea will generally come with polyps. Talking about polyp, I'll just remind myself when we were talking about the changes going on, basically because during menopause, the endometrium thins down. When it thins down, it at times become rough. Adenomyosis happens. It is not smooth as it used to be. And when it becomes, I would not say tortuous, but when it is not regular as it used to be, there are polyps, there are overgrowths which can be observed on ultrasound. So the Calcarea cough cures those polyps very quickly and very nicely. So she would come with exostosis also, where she had never had any bony growths, but now she's complaining of few. Then she'll have palpitations with hot flushes. Her hot flushes, Lachesis also has a little palpitation, but the palpitations in Calcarea cough are more marked. Excessive sweat and Calcarea cough. She would sweat on her back, on her head a lot. And she would compare her previous efficiencies. She would come and tell you that I used to be so efficient. I used to work so hard earlier, but now I'm not able to. so which also distinguishes it from other medicines. Coming to pulsatilla. Pulsatilla will come, cry, will say that, as usual, she will definitely weep during your case taking. She will definitely be unconsolable while weeping, though she would feel good if you console her. She'll have a lot of night sweats, a lot of hot flushes. But her hot flushes can be very well distinguished because she would say that even at night, in the middle of the night, I would go and open my doors. I go and open my windows. I would run out if there is no window. I feel so suffocated. I feel so hot that I need to rush out. I need open air at that time. So this very, very well distinguishes Pulsatilla's night sweats from the Lachesis, Pulsatilla's night sweats from Calcaria capa. Then, of course, she'll be very sad. She will weep on the slightest things, on the slightest excitability. She would weep even when kindly spoken to, when she'll be, she'll be in tears. And anemia is also very well covered, anemia which is caused by excessive bleeding. And of course, these medicines all cover menstrual irregularities. But covering menstrual irregularities in menopause, we have specific medicines also, because at times it is like the place where I'm living in Meerut in India. And we have a lot of villages and small towns associated, located nearby. And so I have a lot of pour-in from the village. So it is very, very difficult to extract symptoms for a constitutional makeup of a person. So in such cases, we look for specific remedies which can help them relieve their symptoms. So if I talk about symptomatic medication, I'll just bring on all the symptoms that I mentioned, and then we can just, I can tell you a few common medicines that I use in my practice. Like for menstrual irregularities, if a woman is coming to me at 46, 47 with a scanty menses, I would definitely not give her any medicine at the first go. I would definitely ask her to get a scan done, to get a hormonal profile done. And if they are supporting menopause, I would definitely not give her medicine. I would send her back. I would say it is fine that you're having decreased menses and they will eventually stop. So you do not need any medication unless she has some other symptoms. Now, but if a woman is coming to me with menorrhagia or metorrhagia and she's bleeding profusely, or she's having spotting throughout the month, we need to give medicines. In those cases, very commonly used medicines that I use are Thalapsi-Versa, Astilago. I use sepia a lot. I use Pulsatilla for bleeding disorders, Hamamelis, Millefolium. But all definitely, I consider all the physical and the mental generals. If at all, if mental generals, particularly if I can get, but physical generals, and along with the symptom that the patient is presenting with, the kind of bleeding that she's having, the pattern of her bleeding decides my medicine. But these were the some of a few commonly used medicines in case if she's presenting with heavy bleeding. Then the next was hot flushes. Hot flushes I've already discussed: Lachesis, Graphites, Pulsatilla, Natrimule, Calcaria carb. These are all common medicines that I use, and arsenic album I'm also using for hot flushes, and it is very, very effective. And I'll definitely discuss a case of arsenic album also, because that was an um, I'll tell you later. So then vaginal dryness. Vaginal dryness, for vaginal dryness, the most frequently medicines that I use are sepia, platina. Platina covers vaginal dryness excellently. Then because it already has vaginismus, because there is fear and the vaginal secretions are already low, and at the time of menopause, the vaginal secretions decrease further. So platina is the medicine. If she says that I always had some sort of vaginal dryness always in my life, even during my reproductive phases. Then for vaginal dryness, I definitely use graphites a lot: sepia, graphites, platina, pulsatilla, natrimule, caladium, because it covers itching very, very nicely, vaginal itching caused because of dryness. So I use caladium a lot. Then we come to incontinence of bladder, wherein osteoporosis is the first medicine that we think of, and it helps in menopause also because it helps strengthen the sphincter. It gives you back the sphincteric control, and it also helps in the neurogenic bladder. This is, I'm telling you, symptomatic medicines. Then other than causticum, again, I use Ignitia. Ignitia works very well. I use Lachesis for incontinence. I use even phosphorus works very well for incontinence if indicated. If indicated, I mean if the constitution is matches the person. even if the physical looks at times, or there was this one patient who just came and she sat. She was good, I would say 53, 54 years of age, and she just came and sat like this on my table, and she was very inquisitive of what I was doing and very friendly. And though she was not ready to tell me mental symptoms on the first go, in the first meeting, but what all I could observe from her behavior and the kind of friendliness that she was showing towards me, still keeping that reserve things about herself. She had come to me with incontinence, and I gave her phosphorus 30. It just reminded of me of the case spontaneously, so I just mentioned it. And phosphorus 30, I gave her for I think good 1 month OD dose, and it worked really well for her. Next is insomnia. Insomnia, I use Ignitia a lot if the cause of insomnia is so. Then Califos, just to soothe the nerves and make the person sleep. And along with the symptomatic remedies, Passiflora is very good. And so next comes mood swings. I've already mentioned all the mental. I think mainly I was discussing about the mental picture of all the medicines, which basically are Pulstilla, Laxative, Natrimur, Ignitia, Sepia. All these cover mood swings very beautifully. Then weight gain. Weight gain, the first medicines that come to our mind are, of course, Calcaraca, Graphites. Then Phytolacca is very good. But again, these medicines, you need to consider the constitution very, very properly, because weight gain only happens, weight loss. Weight loss only happens once the medicine chosen is correct and woman is ready to help herself. If she's helping herself with the correct diet, with regular exercise, then our medicines help. Else, we can only help her a little. We can just help her lose her consolidated fat. She has to burn the fat herself. For the dry skin, we have many medicines like Graphites. Again, we have Natrimul. We have Salicia, covers dry skin very well, and we have Natrimul, which covers dry skin very well. Petroleum, and these are very specific medicines. Again, I'm talking, which can be alumina is very good medicines. Medicine for dry skin. If she comes with dry skin along with dryness of other mucous membranes, where she's complaining of dry heart stools, where she's complaining of slowness in her system, where she is actually very slow to talk, she would come and sit slowly and talk. This entire system is very slow. So you can think of alumina also for dry skin complaints. Decreased sexual desire. Now, again, I've been mentioning this again and again. I'll again mention it because we really have to um, ask the patient repeatedly, tactfully, what is the cause of decreased sexual desire, and since when is she experiencing this thing? And is it the pain? Is it the discomfort? Is it some other factor? Or is it actually just sudden decrease or loss of sexual desire? And accordingly, our medicine will be based. Because if it is some discomfort, so we have to cover that portion first. It will automatically bring back the sexual urge. But if it is complete loss, we can help her with medicines like sepia, with medicines like Natrimur, with medicines like Laxative, Graphites. They all work very well. Platina can also be thought of. They all work very well for decreased libido. Then osteoporosis. Osteoporosis we can cover with medicines like, I would say, all the Calcarea group, Calcarea Phos, Calcarea Car. Even Calcarea Cars is also very good. And other than that, phosphorus works very well. And causticum works very well in bone pains and helping the patient with calcium deposition. So this was a gist. If I talk about a few keynotes, not very, but I would just mention one, in fact. I forgot one medicine to talk about. It is conium for decreased sexual desire. And that decreased sexual desire, something very specific about conium, I would definitely mention it, that at times there is a long abstinence for a woman. And ultimately that leads to loss of libido. It can be because of menopause and it can be because of the reason that I mentioned. So conium can also be thought. Now in boric, in italics, in one medicine, early menopause is mentioned. I was looking for medicines for early menopause because in India it is very common, and I'm getting a lot of women who are facing early menopause as early as 35 and 38. they're not yet married, yet to conceive, and having a menopause at this age is actually very troublesome. You're going to have all these set of problems at a very early age. So we're just looking for some medicine for early menopause. Of course, other than constitution, because I strongly feel that homeopathy does not do anything unnatural. It will only aid in natural things. It will only bring back your natural health. So that ways, I would say for early menopause, one medicine that I came across was absinthium, which of course we all use for epilepsy. But and I happened to use it in one of my in few of my patients, but I got result in only one. How? I gave this lady. She was just 36 years of age. She came to me and she said that her menses have almost ceased since last 6 months. She has not had menses, and we got her scan done. The uterine size was still normal, but the endometrial lining had thinned down to almost 4 mm. Her estrogen level was, I don't remember correctly, but yes, around, it was near the lower portion, maybe 40 or 50 grams per ml. I gave her absinthium 30 regularly because I thought that we need to give her some substance. So I gave her this just on a keynote prescription. I gave the medicine, and after she she kept faith in me, and thanks to her also because she gave me an experience also, because I gave her for 2 consecutive months, 3 times a day, and it brought back her menses for another 3 years. She got married as soon as as her menses appeared, and though she could not conceive, but yes, she at least couldn't get married, because in India, again, um, if you obviously, I mean, you're not having your menses, you have to tell this to the people because arranged marriage system is quite popular here. So people don't intend to marry a person who's not having a menses. So that is how I could help her with absinthium, and I find it. I have given it in few more patients. Did not give me a very good result, but yes, in that patient it did miracles. So I would not say that it is 100% early menopause medicine, but yes, it did help. Um, so I think this was all about menopause and a short just talk, because if I talk about homeopathic medicines, I can go on and on and on and on. Um, that reminds me, I was talking about arsenic album, and I would really like to just take few minutes to discuss this case with you, because arsenic album I never used to use for hot flushes. I don't know how I missed it, but it was only 6-7 years back when this patient comes to me, and my clinic was under renovation at that time. So, but in the evening when the workers were going, they had made my chamber still in a workable condition. The books were piled on one corner. There were there was not a lot of dust, but yes, there was dust. So this patient comes in, and she was around 48 years of age. She told me that her presenting complaint was hot flushes, so much so that she has started to feel weak. Every 15-20 minutes, she would have that bout of feeling heat in her body, particularly in the chest area. And she had come from a village, and but she was from village. Very few people come for this complaint, but so I could understand the gravity of the complaint that she must have been facing. So she came and sat in front of me, and she was telling me that I'm having this problem and I need to get rid of it. So she had already taken, and I inquired. Her menopause had happened 3 years back, so she was at the age of 45, and she developed this complaint after her menopause. So like 1 year after her menses ceased. So I kept on asking her physical generals, her mental generals. She would not answer me properly. So I was noting down abrupt. I was noting down indifferent. I was noting down answering monosyllabically. I was taking all the. I was observing her. I was taking a note of all the things that I could actually observe, because she was not ready to answer me. She was not ready to help me. So after 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of interrogation, her husband came in that, why, what is taking so long? I said, I'm asking, she's not ready to answer me properly. So she said, ma'am, don't mind if I tell you something. Yes, she gets very irritated by this thing. She told me outside also that I'm not going to the doctor. Her clinic is so dirty right now. So then the wife suddenly told me, yes, ma'am, I was not saying this because you will feel bad, but I'm feeling like just getting up and do all the cleaning at your clinic. And the first medicine that came to my mind was arsenic album. I gave arsenic album 1 start dose, uh, followed by placebo, and I called her after 2 weeks. My clinic was all lit up by that time. So when she came back, her hot flushes had already gone down by 50%. I continued with my placebo. I did not repeat arsenic album. Then she came back after another 2 weeks, and her hot flushes were almost gone. So I feel that is how I accidentally found arsenic album to be used to be of very good use in hot flushes, and since then I've been using it. So I think this is all that I would, because I've already taken up my 45 minutes of my speaking. So I would welcome any questions or anything that need to be answered.
Thank you, Dr. Sameera, for your nice presentation.